and says that it stops the client from withdrawing whenever he wants to. It's his child's education. He doesn't want a product where he can withdraw from. So if he starts saving when this little child's being planned, which is the ideal time to start saving, he needs to have a plan where he can't withdraw from. And I get those requests. I don't want to withdraw. I don't want that flexibility of withdrawing from there. And a good financial advisor would ensure that there's no penalties if they had to withdraw. So, you know, you work out the costing on your endowment to ensure that your client doesn't suffer those penalties. And I think that's what you're afraid of, is the cost of it.
Absolutely.
And the penalties.
We've been stung by the financial services industry for so many years through complex financial products that many of us are looking at the cost of education now going, we should have started, the child is this height, and school fees are going up on average 10 to 15% a year, David, in terms of...
I would say probably on average 10 to 15%. One of the biggest problems that faces, one of the biggest challenges is that they will plan a holiday. They will plan the nursery for a child, but they won't plan the financial implications of education in 6, 8, 10 years.
But it's such an inconceivable amount of money for most of us. A nursery, you can ring fence it. You can do a nursery for a couple of £1,000 and make it pretty and spend many happy hours burping baby. And as long as the place is padded, nobody's going to get hurt. Yet, when we look at inflation in education, and the fact that somebody was showing me a letter from one of the private schools in Grahamstown the other day, without the first pair of running shoes, a swimming costume or a bathing cap, school fees are 180,000 Rand a year, and that's not even without transport to get all the way to Grahamstown. And that, 10 years from now, is a frightening prospect.
Yes, I think it is a frightening thing, but if...
All the more reason to plan for it, of course.
No, absolutely. I have a almost... I use to say something of something is better than nothing of nothing.
Okay.
And what a parent has to do almost from the time that his wife says, I'm pregnant, is to say, right, we need to lay down a disciplined savings plan for the eventuality of education. Whether you like it or not, when you buy a pet, it's a 15-year tenure. When you make a child, it's a lifetime tenure. So something has to be done, and done right from the very beginning on a regular disciplined basis to ensure that at least there is a nest egg, even if the nest is not big enough for the educational requirements that you may need for the child. And that's why I often recommend and say, let's not worry too much about the primary and the secondary education, because there are very good public primary and secondary educational facilities in this country, and I have no reason to believe that they will get any worse, because parent-teacher organizations will ensure that they will stay viable, relevant. It is the tertiary education that is going to kill the parent, and this is where the focus, in my opinion, has to be made.
Traditionally, university's been cheaper than schooling, than private schooling.
I don't entirely agree with you, Bruce, because it's very easy to say that it's going to cost R500,000 to educate a doctor, but then the textbooks may cost you another 25 or 30,000 Rand. The students occasionally want to let off steam, so there's going to be a little bit of pocket money, and you're going to have to provide clothing and possibly residence if that child is in a university away from where you live. So the base fees are just part of the challenge. So if you reckon that a child will go to university at the age of about 18, in 18 years you can do quite a lot to help that financial situation.
And I suppose also, Reshma, I mean, it's important, David says, a little bit of something is better than nothing of anything, or nothing of nothing. And your kids are 10 years old. Wake up to the fact that this is becoming an increased burden. Your kids are particularly good at sport, for example, but not good enough to get the scholarships, which would be a nice way in. You need to start.
Well, I had a client, and she is pregnant with her second child, and her first child's going to a private school, and she said, Reshma, it's cost 5,400 Rand a month, and she's going to send this child for a year to the school, and then change the child to a public school because she's not going to be able to afford that. And I said to her, she had come to see me for her resignation at Discovery. And I said to her, well, you know, let's plan for the second one. Let's plan how we're going to do this. And she said, I've just bought a house. I've also just bought a house. She says, I don't know how I'm going to manage. I don't know how I'm going to cope, but I'm definitely not going to be able to manage the school to go on. And my advice to clients is that plan. When you get married, I mean, it's going to determine how many children that you have. Schooling determines how many children you have. I was pregnant when she came and saw me with her first child, and when we did the actual financial planning and she saw how much it was going to cost, her primary, secondary and her university, she said to me, I'm only going to have one child, and that's it. So it's actually, you have to plan upfront. Gone are the days that it's going to be part of it. You have to plan now, upfront. Like David said, when you have that child, when your wife tells you, I'm pregnant, you have to decide. When you get married, you're going to have to decide that child's education needs to fit into the budget.
I think you have to draw a parallel here, Bruce. You know, I see lots of youngsters driving around in very expensive motor cars.
Oh, completely. That's really important, because that's how you get the spouse of your choice.
A 6,000 Rand monthly payment for a reasonably good car is nothing these days. So in a situation like that, you must exercise discipline and say, I can't afford 6,000 Rand a month for my next car. I'm going to have to cut my coat according to my cloth and afford 3,000 Rand. 1,000 Rand towards what I have to do, which is educate my child.
All of this stuff is completely logical. So let's make the assumption that now we've set aside money. We have now decided we're going to shop at Checkers, not at Woolies. We've decided we're going to drive a 3,000 Rand a month car. We're going to do the Yaris rather than the BMW. We're going to go to nice restaurants, not brilliant restaurants. We're not going to go to the tasting rooms anymore with a different wine with every course. We'll go out twice a month, not 3 times. All of that sort of stuff. And we've now got 5,000 Rand a month that we're going to put aside for children's education. What is the most fruitful way of employing that 5,000 Rand on a sustainable basis to ensure that over the 20 years, and you could have a 20-year education phase from preschool through junior school, senior school, and into university, where you are liable for a child's education? How do you employ that money from day one best?
I would say that the first thing would be to see a qualified financial planner, because the
party pooper, she's no fun at all.
Okay, and there are a lot of very good financial planners around who will put the plan together and will say, that's your goal, and you've got 5,000 Rand a month, let's use that towards your goal. My recommendation would be a unit trust-based investment, because up to a point, the discipline has to be exercised by the prospective or the parent, because unit trusts can be tailor-made to suit the sort of investment you're doing. The costs are relatively low, so a lot of that money is invested on your behalf. It takes advantage of various markets, property, equity, whatever it is, and your returns are likely to be better than you would get if you just chuck the money in the bank.
Well, I mean, it's almost guaranteed. I mean,
yes,
because the bank is going to give you practically.
And I think if you start at 5,000, maybe a sweat for the first year, it should be index-linked, because, of course, everything's going up. After the 4th and the 5th year, the 5,000 starts to recede as a burden relative to what a person is earning.
Absolutely crucial point, because, I mean, if you're earning 30,000 Rand a month or 50,000 Rand, that's a substantial portion of your income. But hopefully your earnings grow more quickly as you change jobs and grow as a professional than the rate of saving that you require to achieve the goal.
But I wouldn't say, David, I wouldn't take the full 5,000 and put it. I'd split it. You know, let's say that it would depend on the circumstances. So let's say the child's just being conceived and they've got the 5,000 Rand, they're deciding from there. Is the term to it? So if it's a shorter term, and how are we going to plan? Is it for primary school, pre-primary, what's the term? If it's a shorter term, then I would go the unit trust route and the linked investments and stuff like that. If it's a longer term, and then I'd go your endowments route. And when we talk endowment, and I know you don't like them, okay, with my clients, as with our advisors, most of us take a 50% drop. So that actually equals with the client getting no penalties, which is actually lowers the cost down, which really...
Why don't you like endowments?
I don't like endowments because in my years in the industry, I've seen so many people disadvantaged by taking out endowments. And it's my personal opinion, endowments are for wealthy people.
Have endowments evolved sufficiently to allay David's concerns?
Almost different. I mean, I've got clients who have 80 years in endowments, and you're looking at easily about 15, 16% returns on it. Yes, but what was the reason for it? Because let's say now your client goes, or your client is ready for university. You don't know what state the market's going to be at that stage. If I put my client in a balanced fund and he's run that fund, yes, I'd rather he make 15 or 16% than minus 30% when he goes into university. You can't You don't know what the markets are going to do at that stage. So yes, I don't think you should, you know, wipe out endowments. And there's different companies. If I take Discovery, let's just take Discovery and say, you fees, absolutely no fees at all, because if you've got a life plan, it's all integrated, no fees. Why not? It's you know, it's as good as a unit trust.
Again, I don't want to be prescriptive, but what I mentioned earlier on about getting a specifically good financial planner, somebody who understands endowments, I won't take that away from you, Reshma, but who understands endowments, understands unit trusts, and structures the plan.
100%.
That's what you have to do. But the important thing here is to plan. And if the first stage in that plan is to say, I have to identify a financial planner with whom I have to sit and talk and put something in place, and the financial planner
and then obey.
And obey, but you see, it doesn't matter how good a financial planner you are, if the parent, or the client in this particular instance, is not going to walk the talk, then it's not going to work. And then you're going to end up putting a child into a school where even a public primary school can charge as much as 30,000 Rand a year over, and you know, that's a public school.
Eat, apparently. These things, these children.
Yes. You know, so the key is to talk to somebody and get an objective point of view on how whatever amount of money you have, whether it be 100 or 10,000 Rand, can be best utilized to provide for the education.
At that point, we must leave it. Reshma Ansary, financial advisor at Discovery, and David Crossley, who's manager of the wealth division at BDO South Africa. Some terrifying numbers, some terrifying thoughts, but it's only going to be your fault as a parent if you wake up one day and their piggy bank is empty and the kids' education is wanting. Thank you for watching. There'll be more caution tomorrow on Tonight with me, Bruce Whitfield. Till then, bye-bye.
The Dollar Life Plan, South Africa's first and only life policy to pay out in US dollars. Talk to your financial advisor or visit discovery.coza. You enjoy watching the Rugby Sevens in Hong Kong. Your children have been accepted into university at Harvard. Your second home is in Hyde Park, London. You plan to retire on an olive farm in Tuscany. You think in global terms. Now there is a life policy that does the same. Introducing the Dollar Life Plan, South Africa's first and only life policy to pay out in US dollars. For more information, talk to your financial advisor or visit discovery.coza.
Managing money is a skill that can lead to prosperity. And as Africa's largest economy, the discerning investor has focused in on this hub.
Welcome to Nigeria's capital market.